You are listening to Black Girl Missing, a podcast that covers stories of Black girls who were reported missing when they were under the age of 18. When Black girls go missing, their cases are severely underreported in mainstream media. We want to shift the narrative. We invite you to listen, learn, and do whatever you can to help us bring as many girls home as possible. You can find us wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Please remember to subscribe and leave a review on your favorite platform so that we can keep bringing you the stories of Black girls that need to be told. Due to the sensitive and sometimes graphic nature of these cases, we advise you to use caution when listening.
We open each show reviewing cases of girls who are currently missing that we call the Aisha Alert. We encourage you to pay close attention, check our social media, and help us help the families who are still seeking answers and long for their loved one's safe return. We'd like to note that we create these lists of currently missing Black girls in real time, so by the time the podcast episodes are released, there may have been changes. We will have information on each case posted on our social media channels so that you can stay updated. Summer Cheeks is a 16-year-old girl from Cleveland Heights, Ohio. Summer is believed to be a runaway, and her family is growing concerned. She has been missing for several days as of September 12th, and they would like for her to return home. She's described as 5'1", weighing roughly 120 pounds, with brown hair and brown eyes. She was last seen wearing gray jogging pants and a black and yellow Cleveland Heights High School shirt. Anyone with information on Summer or her whereabouts is asked to contact Cleveland Heights Police at 216-291-1234. DeSheila Pinkston is a 14-year-old girl from Detroit, Michigan. Police say DeSheila walked out of her home in the 900 block of Connor Street after getting frustrated with homework on September 18th. Her grandmother reportedly attempted to follow her in her vehicle, but lost sight of her as DeSheila walked east towards a vacant lot on Algonquin Street. She was last seen wearing a black and white striped shirt with red roses on it, black jeans, and black Nike gym shoes. She was also carrying a cheetah print bag. If anyone has seen DeSheila or knows of her whereabouts, they're asked to call Detroit Police Department's 5th Precinct Investigative Unit at 313-596-5540. Savannah Barnes is a 14-year-old girl from Chicago, Illinois. Savannah was last seen Sunday near the 4500 block of South Vincennes Avenue. Chicago police said she's 5'6", 175 pounds, and has brown eyes. She was last seen wearing black and brown twist braids that go down to the middle of her back. She was wearing black jogging pants, pink sandals, and a brown Dunkin' Donuts t-shirt. She was also carrying a black and white purse with flowers on it. She may appear confused. Anyone with information about her is asked to call Area 1 detectives at 312-747-8380.
So welcome back. Our case today is, for me, one of the most infuriating cases we've had so far. It's just one of those situations where negligence on the part of the police and other officials played a big role in what happened in the wake of this disappearance. Today, we're talking about Cleashindra Denise Hall, a young woman who went missing when she was a senior in high school. Though she had just turned 18 a couple of months prior, we still consider her one of our girls because she was a teenager in high school and she just had a blast at her senior prom like everyone else and was looking forward to graduation. On May 9th, 1994, Clea, as she was affectionately called by those who loved her, went to school. Then she went to work at her part-time job at a home office of a local doctor, Dr. Larry Amos. Her shift was usually done at 8:30, and she would call her parents to get a ride home. That night, however, no such call came, and she was never seen again. Cleve was a bright girl. I mean, she was beautiful too. Pretty dark skin, flawless skin. Her hair and nails were always done. She was about 5'8", 120 pounds. On the day she went missing, she was wearing a white two-piece short set imprinted with large navy blue polka dots on the shorts and navy blue stripes on the blouse. She was wearing white socks, white sneakers, small stud earrings, and a white bow type ponytail holder. So if you can imagine, this is very 90s. This is
Mm-hmm.
very
Yeah.
90s
Yes, I'm seeing
Yeah.
it.
coordination. You're seeing the
Yeah.
visual, right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
And pictures of her, she's got like the mushroom cuts, she's got the bobs, she's very mid 90s. Um, Something distinct, she had a chipped front tooth and a surgical scar on the outside of her knee. She grew up in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, and she was really on the path to making a big difference in this world. She was an honor student, and she was very much interested in medicine. She was planning on attending Tennessee State University for pre med. She wanted to be a pediatrician. We also know that she secured a summer internship in Boston, Massachusetts, with a
Oh.
pediatrician that she was set to begin once she graduated. She was really like about it. Like she was really about her business. She was also chosen to give a speech at her graduation that year. She really focused on her studies and was really thinking about the future. She was the only girl in her tight knit family, and to this day, her family celebrates and honors her at family gatherings and holidays and other special days. Her mother, Laurel Hill, relives the nightmarish night she disappeared over and over. On that day, Clea got up and went to school like she always did. That Monday was actually the family's kind of first day back to a normal routine because they had a big weekend in the town. The prom was on Friday. There was a sorority ball on Saturday that she went to, and then Mother's Day was Sunday. So it was a pretty packed weekend. A lot going on. So after school, she went to her part-time job. She was working at this home office. Dr. Larry Amos was this 42-year-old black male doctor. His job was actually he had a big hand in allocating grants for childcare facilities, and Clea was the clerical assistant. So again, all of this is involving children. This was really what her passion was and what she was known for. Now, usually she would call home and let someone know when she was ready to leave. One of her parents usually would go and pick her up. And this would be around 8:30. That was the end of her shift. It wasn't too late for a school night. I also imagine that when work was slow, she probably worked on her homework, and stayed on top of things because remember, she was an honor student holding down a job. So she clearly had a good head on her shoulders. On May 9th, though, she didn't call at her usual 8:30. Now, her mom, Laurel, said she did speak to her briefly right after 8 a.m., and it was a weird call. Clea had called home asking if someone had tried to call her, and Laurel said no. Remember, they didn't have cell phones, nothing like that back then. So this was at the office. And then Clea said, well, I'm not ready to leave right now, but I'm going to call you again when I'm ready to go, right? Usual. So Laurel waited a while, thinking maybe she was working late or maybe she lost track of time. But when she didn't call her, Laurel called Dr. Amos because Clea never worked past 10 p.m. He said that she clocked out at 8:30. Now, this caught my attention because it wasn't very specific. It was her usual time. Now, if a parent is calling concern, I would hope that you would be a little more specific. But, then I was also thinking that he, was probably busy with work, or maybe he just assumed the time, knowing that that was the time that she usually clocked out. But then he said that she left with someone in a car and she seemed familiar with the person. Now, later on, we'll talk about how his story changed a little bit. But that's what he said.
Oh, okay.
That's what he, initially said. She left with somebody and she seemed familiar. Now, that struck Laurel as odd because Clea didn't let her know she was being picked up by anyone else.
Right.
She had just talked to her and said, I'm going to call you back when I need a ride.
Right.
I am so skeptical already.
Already, right?
Mm-hmm.
So her mom kind of shook it off and decided to wait, okay? Because again, we're coming off this big weekend. It was the prom, it was this whole thing. Maybe she was just being a teenager. Laurel had said to some reporters that, I just thought maybe she was flexing her independence. She's about to graduate, being little, whatever. So she said she figured maybe she was still excited, wanted to meet up with some friends. Laurel waited up for her, but she tried to, but she ended up falling asleep, right? So Clea's dad, Willie, got home much later, around 12:45, 1 a.m. Laurel was asleep and Clea was still not home. But they waited, thinking maybe she was at a friend's house or she would come home or she would go straight to school. The next day, Laurel said her middle son was at school and didn't see his sister. And he began asking the school administrators like all day, like, where, have you seen her? Has she gone to any classes? No luck. So he told his mom, and that's when she decided to call the police. So, as we've seen with other cases, the police said she needed to wait 24 hours. And this time, though, it was
Uh,
because Clea was technically an adult.
right. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Laurel and Willie were very unhappy with this response, but eventually they were able to file a missing persons report around 5 p.m. on May 10th. This is the next day. So the police kind of dragged their feet in this case. And this is where when I say infuriating, I say had they done something sooner, we would know. And listeners, you're going to understand why I say that in a minute. But this was really, I have to put this at, they dragged their feet. And part of me was wondering, was it because it was such a big weekend in town? They kind of expected the young people to be acting out of sorts or whatever. But Laurel, to this day, says she does not feel the police took the case seriously enough, and just didn't give the support that they needed. So the family went ahead and printed flyers and put them up all over the place. It would be several days before the police began to even get involved and search for Clea with Ernest. Several days.
What?
That is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Now this is a young woman everybody knows. They
Mm-hmm.
know she's smart.
Yeah.
She's given the commencement speech. She's at the sorority ball. She's at the prom. Like, everybody knows this girl. And they know she's not a runaway. They know she's not a so-called troubled teen. But the police were like, mm.
That don't make no sense.
And that was really, according to the detective, Lieutenant Hobson, he said the police, they this was Detective Lieutenant Terry Hobson. He was responsible for the case, and he said that they looked everywhere for her. Of course, the police are going to say that, right? They're saying that they had no luck. All right. It took 2 weeks for them to search the home of Dr. Amos.
Excuse me?
2 weeks. Guess what happened in that time? Your man's went on a business trip.
Of course he did.
Really? Okay.
Went on a business trip. Now
Course.
he's married. We don't know if his wife went with him or was at the house, but what we do know is that he got really uptight about them questioning his wife and just would not let it happen. Okay. But she disappears. He goes on a business trip. 2 weeks later, they come and search his house. Now, 2 weeks is a long time. And if he had anything to do with it, that gave him plenty of time to clean things up. Okay. Now, according to Detective Hobson, police were initially granted full access to his home when he got back. But then he got into some kind of disagreement with another detective who no longer works with the department. He began to deny the police access to search his home. So he clamped up. He was like, nah, I can't come in here. Police did not find any physical evidence that connected him or any other person to Clea's disappearance at that time. Okay. Now, I don't know about y'all, but if I'm being looked at for possible foul play involving, someone going missing, especially that's someone that works for me and is a young person, I'm probably not going to go on any kind of trip because it makes me look like I'm skipping town.
Yup.
But clearly, that was not an issue for Dr. Amos. He was like, I'm going to skedaddle. At the same
This is so
time,
bizarre.
at the
Wow.
same time, he is also a black man in America. And the police, if he had nothing to do with it, and the police is all up in his house and his stuff, he might have felt some kind of way. You know what I mean? So, we not, he was officially a person of interest, but not necessarily a suspect. Only because that's the last person that was known to have seen her.
I'd like to know what that disagreement or argument with the other detective was that caused him to clam up.
I don't know. I couldn't get much information on that. But I just know that he was not come back. And honestly, from what I've been reading, I think it was related to his wife. I'm going to assume that because that's when he started clamming up, I guess, when they started wanting to question his wife. So the days turned into weeks, and that turned into months and then years. Nothing. No sign of Clea, no calls, no evidence, no leads, nothing. Then, in May of 2012, the Pine Bluff police admitted they had found some evidence that they had just sent to the crime lab. Yes, they had found some evidence a couple of months before. You know why? Because they got tips saying that they should go check the house. Now, wait, I just want to remind y'all, she went missing in 1994. So this is
Yeah.
18 years later. For all those years, mom was calling the crime lab like almost every week, constantly checking to see if anything came up. Nothing. Then they admitted that they got a tip leading them to reopen the case, a tip that they got back in March to go back to his house, but they didn't tell the family. Family
So
didn't find out till May.
so this tip came
Mm-hmm.
in 2012.
2012. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. The tip came in 2012,
Okay.
in March of 2012, which was like around her birthday time.
Mhm.
They didn't find out until May because this was when they had, because she went missing, right? That's so they
Mhm.
every year they do a memorial. Every year they do a
Yeah.
vigil or whatever. But this time the family, they all got together at his house where they were serving the search warrant based on this tip. And listeners, we're going to have some video of that on
Oh.
our website because that, yes,
Oh my goodness.
everybody was standing there as they were doing this. All the film, the TV, the news, everybody was doing this. So what had happened was he was having some work done on his house, and the landscapers uncovered some like materials, some wood or something that looked like it had blood on it.
Oh.
And then they said there was this foul odor that was coming from this space that they could not figure out what it was. And they said it smelled dead.
Oh no.
Okay.
But
18 years later.
that could be anything.
Anything.
It
Could
could
be
be an
anything.
animal.
It could be
Yeah.
anything. Okay. So they had cadaver dogs go. They had they were removing some paper bags, but the police would never say what it was that they were taking out. So apparently the evidence that they had, these like, I guess they retrieved some of those things. They did send it to the crime lab. It didn't have her blood on it.
Okay.
They didn't find traces of the blood. But it was more like, you found this thing. This could have existed before he even got there, but you didn't
Yeah.
even tell the parents, who have for the last 18 years just been waiting for something. Something, you know? So he was named as a person of interest, but then there was also a local boy who Clea was said to have liked or may have been a boyfriend, and he was also a person of interest. They interrogated him, searched his car, but found nothing connecting him to her disappearance. However, they did a polygraph test and it was inconclusive. Now, we know those aren't the most reliable things,
Right.
but his polygraph test was inconclusive. But he says that he didn't have nothing to do with it. And what's
Okay.
interesting is that they have been so focused on the doctor that they didn't really pursue anything with this boyfriend or this boy.
Interesting.
So that's kind of where, that's kind of like, that's a dead end.
Yeah.
So there was another report that I found that gave some more details, right? So apparently, this is what they are saying. There was another coworker there when she was there that night on May 9th. And the coworker had left the residence shortly before 8:30 and had offered Clea a ride. Clea allegedly or apparently said that she was planning to walk home, which contradicted Amos's story that someone came to pick her up.
And also,
And
what
also,
her parents know is she calls them to get a ride when she's coming home from work.
But she didn't that day, right? So here's what I was thinking when I saw this. I said, okay, somebody called the office. Could have been a friend, a boy, parents, but she thought maybe it was her parents, so she called them and was like, "No, it wasn't us, but I'll call you back when I need a ride." Well,
Okay.
maybe she was trying to set something up with somebody else, you know, that she was going to walk and meet or whatever. Okay. But Dr. Amos, who just randomly said 8:30, right? Not 8:32, not 8:27, 8:30. He said that he saw that, but that, you know, that he saw her leave, and he had heard that the garage door closing, followed by the sound of her climbing into a vehicle. But then, hold on, because he changed the story again.
Yeah.
He said that another time he said he saw her looking out the window for her ride before exiting the house once the vehicle arrived. Now, before he was saying he didn't see nothing. He just assumed that she left or that he heard stuff. Now he's
Right.
saying that he looked out the window. Or so he saw her looking out the window. Which one
And
was
then
it?
before he said that he also stated that she got into the car with somebody that she looked familiar with.
Yeah. So we got 3 different stories from
Yeah.
him.
Now, to be fair, we know that people are not the best historians.
This is true.
So this could mean nothing. He
Could
could
mean
just get the
nothing.
story wrong.
He could
But
be. Yeah.
But when the story was fresh in his mind, this 8:30 business is really rubbing me the wrong way.
Yeah.
It's rubbing me the
Yeah.
wrong way.
Especially because there was another coworker there and he didn't mention anything
Yeah.
about the coworker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He didn't mention that, right?
Because why
So
wouldn't you mention him? That's important to know to say
exactly.
there's another person here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But look. We got some more.
Oh, boy.
So a few weeks before her disappearance, a male friend of Clea's had dropped her off for work, but was apparently met with a hostile reaction from Amos.
Oh.
He said, "You know I don't allow courting on my property." Before Cleo told told Amos that this guy wasn't her boyfriend. So he felt some kind of way about her being dropped off by a boy.
Yeah. Now this is where like it's getting very, very Lifetime movie-ish for me.
But wait. There's more.
Of course there is.
Willie, her father, said that he saw Dr. Amos tearing down some of the missing person flyers of Clea. Dum dum dum. Why would you tear down the missing person flyers?
Hold up. Wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
This is where I need to get off the bus. Wait a minute. So you're telling me that a man in his early 40s, a successful Black doctor, took the time to go tear down missing persons posters.
Mm-hmm.
That take a lot of time and a lot of damn effort.
It really does. Okay.
Because you have to carve out some time in your day to go do that shit.
Right.
Or you got to be real mad. Like it's like a furious kind of thing. You know what I mean? You're just like, leave me alone. You know, whatever. That's all suspect to me. But then, so in 2012, there was a show called Find Our Missing, and it profiled Clea's story, which prompted the fresh investigation into the case. So this was when I was talking about the people that were doing the renovations. So when they came forward, right, they ended up doing this show because, you know, the cold case, the whole thing about this is just so intriguing. It's like, how do you just disappear? Again, we've done this before. We've had ones where we're just like, how do you just disappear? And nobody knows nothing, especially in a smaller town situation, right?
No witnesses, no clues, no nothing.
Yeah. So this was so the show picked it up after these witnesses had come forward talking about seeing blood on the insulation and, you know, this terrible odor or whatever. So they did have the search warrant. They did recover 4 pieces of evidence. Those were sent to the crime lab, but everything came back negative for blood. So again, the investigation was back to square one. You all could see this house. I have it in the thing. It's a big house, right? It's a big house. You can obviously see where he could have like a private, you know, home office or things like that. There's like 2-car garage. So it's pretty sprawling. And, you know, the big thing for me that kind of really stood out was that, you know, he had a wife and was like, he went out of his way to make sure they were not questioning her. So that just really raised the, you know, my spidey senses a little bit. Like, what is going on that you don't want your wife even talking? If you're innocent, if you didn't do anything to this girl, why not even just have your wife kind of corroborate and be like, well, no, I saw her too or something, you know? So this is kind of like where it stops. There's been a lot of speculation about what happened. So the police think that she either started to walk home and was abducted, or that she went with someone that she maybe knew, but her parents didn't know and maybe got caught up in a bad situation. But without any evidence, there aren't any leads. So here's what's interesting that also came out of this that I thought would be, you know, it's cool to share with our listeners who may not know. So according to Missing Kids blog, although Cleashindra was 18 when she vanished. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children is still involved with this case due to the provision of the Protect Act of 2003, known as Suzanne's Law. Named after the missing 19-year-old college student Suzanne Lyle from Albany, New York in 1998. This law extends to missing young adults ages 18 to 20 the same reporting and law enforcement response requirements already provided for children younger than 18. And thanks to Suzanne's Law, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children is able to use their resources like poster creation, media distribution, family advocacy, and age progression technology to aid in the missing young adult cases. So
Nice.
Okay.
yeah, so that was something
Yeah.
that I learned that I was not aware of, and I thought that was really interesting. And we'll put some more information out about that on our social media and stuff. But each year on her birthday, which is March 30th, her missing date, which is May 9th, and Labor Day, the friends and family, they all release pink balloons to keep her case in the public eye and let everyone know that they're still searching. They have never given up hope of finding her. I believe she would have been 42 right now, so like a year older than me. If anybody has any information on this case, you're urged to call the Pine Bluff Police Department at 870-730-2090. This is a cold case. This is a very cold case, but it's also, we talk a lot about the parents that just won't let it go, and really pushed and really pursue. And, she's one of the few to actually get a TV show about it, get that kind of coverage. I remember this case. I remember, them talking about the doctor and was he some kind of like serial killer or what it was, right? Because you hear about all these doctors that have these secret lives of like massacre maniacs or whatever. So I remember thinking like, this is so weird. This girl is an honor student. She's going to college. She wants to be a pediatrician. She's just doing everything that we tell our kids they're supposed to do, like living a best life, good girl, and had a job, as a mother of a teenager who's waiting for that teenager to turn 14 so he can get his working papers and go get him a little inventory stock house job. Okay. She had a job, a good job, y'all. Clerical work with a doctor. Okay. And had been working there for a while. So it's just so odd that just one day she just disappears.
Yeah.
That is wild. And I'm thinking to myself about the age difference. He wasn't like some old creepy guy. He's 43. He's not old at all.
No.
So young Black doctor has got a home office, and that means he probably has a private practice that's doing really well. This is a very nice home.
He was in charge. He had his organization. He ran his own organization, and what he was doing with the organization was he was like allocating grants. It was like a charitable, almost philanthropic organization that he would give grants to daycare facilities, so that they could operate. Yeah.
So knowing that he could have been a weird, creepy dude, he could have been trying to seduce her to be in an intimate situation. We don't know, and we'll never know.
Right.
But those thoughts definitely crossed my mind when you mentioned him not wanting anybody to speak to his wife. And also him removing those posters. That all felt really strange.
Yes.
And also that 8:30 thing is really itching at me.
It is. It is.
Because I don't feel like somebody picked her up.
Me neither.
I don't either.
And like the only thing I can really think of that would make sense, and I don't know if it regarding like the tearing down of signs and clamming up, is if there was scrutiny from the community and he was tired of being like, how some people will jump to conclusions and all of a sudden there's no conclusion to the case. Nobody's been officially labeled as a suspect, but there's finger pointing and the whispers and the gossip. And I don't know if that happened in that case, but I can see how that would lead somebody to, I don't want to cooperate anymore. I'm tired of seeing these missing posters. Like, especially if people had, I don't know, put them all along his street
Yeah.
on his side while her
That's the
son's
only
in the
thing I
tent.
was thinking about, was
Yeah.
that maybe he was ripping them down because they were by his place or
Hmm.
whatever. And
I'm
like,
sick of
so,
looking at this.
right. And so
Yeah.
he was a person of interest. He was never officially a suspect because they could not find anything at all. Like her mother once said, she was like, not even like a press on nail or an extension or anything of
No.
her daughter's, that could be found along the way, searching the streets and everything. Like if there was any kind of a struggle, there was no signs of struggle in this house or anywhere. But again, they did not get to his house until 2 weeks
Weeks.
later,
Right.
because he just happened to coincidentally have a business trip that was taking place the same time she
Hmm.
went missing. Now, one of the things that my mind went to is that he whisked her off somewhere
Yeah.
Yeah.
away from this whole area, kidnapped her, took her somewhere. If he was the person. Now y'all know we don't make any judgments here. We just thinking out loud. Our job is just to think about the possibilities of what could happen.
Hmm.
And my imagination, I am a writer, I do have a creative mind. I was thinking that maybe he took her somewhere, and maybe had a stash house somewhere, or maybe took her to another city
Because
and
he has the means to do such
he has the
things.
means to do such a thing. And maybe that's why he doesn't want people asking his wife, because maybe this is something that he does,
Hmm.
behind her back. And maybe something went wrong with this 18-year-old girl,
Hmm.
right? For all we know, he could have been grooming her. Maybe she
But
went
that,
willingly.
Hmm.
Okay? Like, we don't know. We just don't know. And what really infuriates me is that his house was not checked for 2 weeks, mainly because the police dragged their feet. Had the
Hmm.
police responded within the first 48 hours, they would have immediately stopped him from leaving.
but the system don't work.
The system
Exactly.
don't work. And I'm sorry, but had this been a white girl with this
Oh,
black doctor,
locked down.
he would not have been able to get outside the county line.
Nope.
They would have picked
Had
that
him.
house apart.
Yep.
Done. You know what I mean? And I just hate the assumption that, she's this black girl with a black name and black skin and just everything, and they just let it like, oh wow, she she
She
probably
probably
just
ran
went
away.
somewhere. She just
Yeah.
probably. No, this girl was so determined about her life. She was about to
Hmm.
graduate and give the speech. I don't know how many listeners out there know how much of a prideful thing it is to be able to give a commencement
Hmm.
speech. That is so big,
And
so
then
major.
from what you're telling me about her family, it didn't seem like there were any,
Nothing.
red flags within the family
Nothing.
life or
They were a
anything like
very
that.
tight knit family. They were very close. It's just such a shame. This girl, she was looking forward to her internship. Why
Hmm.
would you run away from
Yep.
home? Why would you
Hmm.
run off with somebody when you have this prestigious internship all the way in Boston? You're leaving Arkansas. You're going to
Hmm.
Boston to work for a pediatrician.
When we cover cases like this from like the 90s, I also want to just kind of put in the space that we always think about the time that this is happening also.
Mm-hmm.
Like you mentioned, we had no cell phones.
Hmm.
There wasn't this large presence of surveillance like we have
Yep.
now.
Right.
It's pre 9/11. There are not cameras everywhere. Most homes don't have a computer or the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's all of those things are those are luxury items.
Right.
The average family doesn't have those. We don't have the Ring doorbell things where you can see
Yep.
outside your house. We don't have any of that. So being able to get away with crimes like this back during these times, it was so easy.
It was
Hmm.
So that's
so
why
Yep.
easy.
you relied on the police to do police work, to do detective work, to do investigative work. So
Hmm.
when they don't do that, you're stuck because you have literally no other options and no other resources. Where now, if the police don't come, somebody saw you because somebody has a camera in their window.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody has the Ring doorbell camera. Somebody can catch you doing something.
I got that
Hmm.
ring recently. And it's a whole network. I get the notifications every day. Somebody took my passage. Did you see this man? And it's a whole thing. Nobody's
Yeah.
getting away with nothing in my neighborhood.
Right. And like I thinking about that time, people know, particularly around Black girls, that there's not going to be that attention paid. So you don't have the surveillance kind of infrastructure now. And then you know that there's going to be very little attention paid. So the payoff, quote unquote, payoff for you, or the risk for you as somebody that is abducting, harming a Black child,
Mm-hmm.
is slim to none.
I hear you. So this was a tough one. I keep looking at her picture. I keep thinking of everything that she was supposed to be, right? She was supposed to be a pediatrician, and she could still very well be alive. We don't know. It is a
Yeah.
cold case. So there's still, I mean, again, if they can come back 18 years later because somebody found something that looked like blood in the house, anything is possible, so as always, we are keeping hope alive. We are asking people to pay attention to their surroundings. And we are sending our love to the family, the Hall family.
Absolutely.
All right. We'll see y'all next time.
Have a good week.
Yes.
Black Girl Missing podcast is researched, written, and produced by 3 concerned Black women who want justice for missing Black girls. Today's episode was written by Feminista Jones and produced by Nikki Irene. The Black Girl Missing theme was produced by Siraj Khalif. Please be sure to follow us on social media. On Twitter, we are at Black Girl Missing. That's BLK Girl Missing. On Facebook, we are at Black Girl Missing Pod. On Instagram, we are at Black Girl Missing Podcast. Visit our website for more information about each case, blackgirlmissingpod.com. You can support Black Girl Missing by subscribing to our Patreon, where you can receive exclusive behind-the-scenes content and bonus episodes. Go to patreon.com/blackgirlmissingpodcast and subscribe today. We really appreciate the support.